Yo, what's up? This is Toru, and in a way, so are you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a music producer, artist, and entrepreneur. I make music for that space between the dance floor and the bedroom, which has been streamed millions of times and been licensed by brands big and small, including companies like Apple. I believe that regardless of what you produce, whether it be music, art, physical goods, or even spreadsheets, you have a process, whether you know it or not. To explore this further, I created the ProducerHead Podcast. ProducerHead is a place to have conversations with other producers about their experience and process to share what works and what doesn't, to help each of us learn and improve our own processes along the way. Today's guest is CRFT, a Houston-born, Atlanta-based producer and founder of the BeatCurve record label. As we'll discuss in today's conversation, CRFT has been an entrepreneur for decades and has experience working in the industry as a producer, even managing and releasing music for artists like MF Doom, Dilla, and Emanon. In this conversation, CRFT will share some stories and lessons learned from his time with Doom, as well as cover a lot of ground that's going to provide useful information and motivation. Some of what we discuss with CRFT will include the importance of confidence and how to further develop your own, understanding the difference between what you can and cannot control, approaching collaboration strategically and practically, and marketing concepts and strategies for social media that can be applied no matter where you are in your career. As you'll hear throughout this conversation, CRFT has experienced success throughout his life in multiple phases as a result of his confidence in his ability to adapt to changing circumstances and developing genuine relationships with others. All right, with all that said, ProducerHead episode 6 with CRFT starts now. Let's get into it. Everybody, this is Toru, and in a way, so are you. Welcome back to another episode of ProducerHead. Today on the show, we have CRFT, a Houston-born, Atlanta-based producer who blends lo-fi textures, Southern funk, and 90s hip-hop in his lush, yet minimal beats. Inspired by his Texas roots, faith, and his father's vinyl collection, CRFT creates without boundaries. CRFT was the founder of the Shaman Work label, which released music featuring MF Doom, Dilla, Aloe Black, Emanon, Carlos Nino, John Robinson, and many more. Maybe you've heard of some of those people. But today is a new day, and CRFT's BeatCurve Records is on a mission to release music for God's glory and to inspire the beat culture. Everybody, ProducerHead, please welcome CRFT to the show. What's up, man?
What's up? What's up, Toru? It's just an honor to be here. I'm blessed to be here. We met in Nashville, and that brought us here.
Yeah, we did, man. And I'm really grateful to meet you as well. And thank you again for sharing the time. I do want to jump right in, man, because I think as we're going to find throughout this conversation, you're somebody who's embraced an entrepreneurial path like throughout. And that's a much more challenging route to take than simply just a music maker. And that's not to say that making music is easy for anybody out there. But because of that, I want to start with confidence. Where does confidence come from for you?
To me, confidence comes from preparation. Whatever your calling is in life, you put in, as I believe, was it Malcolm Gladwell that came up with the 10,000 hours? You put your 10,000 hours in, and you become good at something. And the better you prepare and you become good at, the more confident you are. Also, for me personally, in my personal walk in life, confidence comes from my faith in Jesus. Just having that faith and being grounded, no matter the outcome, allows me to approach new opportunities and familiar opportunities with confidence as well.
That's awesome. And so it really sounds like it's a blend between two things, right? One is understanding what you can control and what you can't control.
Correct.
What you can't control, it becomes, all right, preparation. And the other part becomes surrendering to like, okay, there's some things I can't control, and I'm going to trust that to take care of itself. So
exactly.
So let's talk a little bit, because I love the idea that, okay, within the things I can control, let me go ahead and do what I can to prepare. The thing is, in theory, we can always be more prepared, right? So where do you...
Right. So when does it ever end?
So where's that sweet spot so that you can make sure that at some point you jump in the ring and take action?
Yeah, so that's what I find really cool about lo-fi. I've always been a fan of the aesthetic as far as, the 90s, boom bap and that style of lo-fi. But it's also the embracing the imperfections in music, the humanity in music. So, when you prepare on one side, you could take the Kanye route, when he was coming up as a producer, 5-10 beats a day until you feel like your craft is where it needs to be. But also at a certain point, you just need to ship it.
Mm.
right? There's only so many hours you could spend EQing that snare, right? It's going to be right at a certain point. So, which goes back to confidence, right? So, if you're confident in a product, and in our world, a product is a beat or a song. If you're confident in that product being ready to ship, let it go and let the world experience. And sometimes you'll find that the music that you put all the time in, it may not resonate with the people in the world. And it could be that one track where it's like, oh, the world likes this one?
Mm.
Oh, that was easy. So yeah, it's that fine line, it's that balance that musicians and entrepreneurs and anyone who has a creative passion, they have to strike that balance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like what I hear you describing a bit, man, is the need to really expose yourself and to put something out there and actually to learn for real, to get real information from people.
Correct. Fail if you're gonna fail fast.
Mm. What role do you think confidence plays in like the trajectory and the career of a producer?
A lot, a lot. You know, we've gone from in the music industry, the producer being a person in the background who's putting all the pieces together, to when hip hop came around, the producer became synonymous with the beat maker,
Mm.
and beat makers started to become more of a brand themselves. To today, producers are releasing instrumental projects and they are the artist. So I think the more, obviously, throughout that entire timeline of a producer, confidence plays a role. But I argue that it takes more confidence to be a producer artist, because you're essentially putting your brand on display for the world to see and judge and critique. So I believe confidence more than ever plays a role in the life of a producer today.
Yeah, man, that makes a ton of sense to me. So how would you, let's say there's somebody out there and they're getting started, or maybe they're in a place where like they don't feel as confident as they'd like to. How would you suggest that they continue to develop that confidence so that they can release more music more confidently, or maybe start a new business alongside of it?
Yeah, don't go at it alone. Collaborate.
Mm.
Yeah, if you have a weakness, like for me as a producer, I'm not a classically trained piano player or anything. So if I need a piano track, I go collaborate with a producer who's skilled at that instrument. Same in business. If I'm not a good person with the finances, but I'm a good idea person, I'm going to seek out a business partner who's good with the finances. So I think that's a really huge asset in the beat culture world, that collaboration is a huge thing. So seeking other people who make up for your weaknesses is man, I believe that's a really good way not only to grow as a musician technically, but also grow your confidence.
And I love that because, being confident doesn't mean that, okay, I have to do everything myself. It's understanding where your blind spots are, where you're strong, where maybe you could use a little help, and being able to put all of that together.
Yep.
I love that. That's great, man. So let's get into a little bit of the entrepreneurship, because I think it's super interesting throughout your life, the different kinds of things you've put together. So I see you repping the Morehouse sweatshirt. I know you went to Morehouse as well as Georgia Tech to study engineering, actually.
That's
But
correct. Yes.
but you went there, and that's not exactly. I mean, you did that, but that's not all you did. So tell us a little bit about what happened there.
So college was all about this duality between education and music. So I arrived on campus at Morehouse in 1997 as a freshman. And the first thing I noticed, it was all the artistic, creative people outside of the dorms freestyling, people making beats in their dorms, people promoting their shows that they were going to have off campus, rap shows. And that just intrigued me because I really got into music really strong my sophomore, junior year in high school. So seeing that there were other people out there my age in school being creative and taking a chance with letting their art out for people to see and hear, that was really inspiring. But on the other side, I had a scholarship. I was a NASA scholar, so NASA paid for my schooling. within science, technology, engineering, and math. And, so I had to keep my grades up too. And it came to a point when I was at Georgia Tech where I had to let music go for a while just to focus on getting my degree, always knowing in the back of my head that I did not want to be an engineer, but I felt that, hey, I'm so far along in electrical engineering as far as getting my degree. I need to finish strong, make some sacrifices, and just as we say at Georgia Tech, got to get out. So I was able to get out in 2002, and I did not look back. I jumped right back into music once I got that degree.
And so, yeah, man, let's talk about alphabeats.com, man. How did that come to be?
Oh, a throwback.
Yeah.
Well, the funny part about Alphabeats is that I was able to scratch two itches, right? One was that I want to be able to get into all the college parties that were off campus for free. So by starting Alphabeats, I was able to have a press credential and I could get into parties. But the second itch was I was able to interview people like MF Doom, interview people like Peanut Butter Wolf and Stone's Throw, Music Soul Child, Talib Kweli. So No ID. I was able to speak and learn from these great musicians, mostly producers, and interview them about the craft of beat making. So I don't know of any other website that focused on the art of beat making, as far as editorializing it in words. I don't remember any other online magazine doing that before alphabeats.com, Alpha and Omega magazine. And honestly, that was the door that opened me up to my really initial strong industry connections. Through those connections, like I said, I met MF Doom, I met Peanut Butter Wolf. In Atlanta, I was able to meet the Patchwork Recordings people. That's where Razcast was signed. Able to meet Outkast. I've been in the room with Andre. And it's just, so being able to experience that as a college student was huge for my confidence and for the industry connections that I needed to eventually lead to me starting my first record label.
So how old were you when you started Alphabeats?
Let's see, 1997, I was 17, 18 years old.
Yeah. And so, I mean, what made you feel like you could start something like that? Because what I love about it is, here it is, it's like I assume at least, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you're not necessarily thinking about how you can be a business person necessarily. But you're being somebody who's 17, you're like, I want to be hanging out in these places. How can I go ahead and find a way in? And so you're just interest and fun. And then that leads to countless opportunities and connections.
Correct. Another cool story, because of Alphabeats and having that press credential, I was able to go to Wu Wear. All right, so this was back when Wu-Tang had their own clothing line, and they had a Wu Wear store in Atlanta. The Gravediggers with Prince Paul and RZA and them, they were doing an in-store. So I was able to go there and interview all those guys. I passed Prince Paul a demo tape. He leaves a voicemail on my answering machine. I'm dating myself because no one has answering machines anymore. He leaves a voicemail saying, "Hey, I listened to your music. It's really good." Dude, that put Prince Paul, I mean, come on. Like, the producer of all the early De La Soul stuff. I mean, come on. So that was just amazing. So once again, like, it was the opportunity to meet all these people. But if I were to be completely honest, it was irrational confidence. Like, I just felt like I could do it. And I understand, like, that's not the case for everybody, but that's my story. And I think it goes back to my parents. My parents always supported my crazy ideas. And they never shot down the crazy things that Chris wanted to do, so I think the confidence comes from good parenting. I definitely won the parent lottery, I should say.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. So you mentioned there, that leads to you starting your label. So tell us about that and kind of what makes you decide that you're going to be more than somebody who produces music, but you're going to contribute in the form of a label as well.
So before the label, we were just, making music, pressing up our own CDs, without calling it a label, my friends at Morehouse. And we actually went up to New York. We drove up to New York from Atlanta with our buddy, Self-Titled. Self is still putting out music. And I go and take a demo to a distributor called Bud's Distribution in Manhattan. As soon as I walk in, there's Mos Def and Kweli talking to each other. They had just finished a meeting. I give them a CD that we have pressed up. So that was like, whoa, that's cool. And so we end up doing a deal with Bud's Distribution under our group name Divine Mind. And they put out a piece of vinyl by us called Forever. And that was cool because they introduced us to the New York underground scene. The whole, that was the raucous era, which was pretty cool. But the bad side is we never got paid after selling a ton of records. So that got me and my buddies thinking. I'm like, hey, what if we did this ourselves? So that, of course, we will have to work with a distributor and all that. But that really got us thinking like, hey, maybe we can be a label. Maybe we could start something. So when toward the end of Georgia Tech, I was doing something with Alpha Beats where we were doing compilation albums. And this was in the early 2000s. So that was the first compilation album. We put it out under Shaman Work Recordings. And I can't remember the name of it, but I know we had Little Brother on it. We got an exclusive from Little Brother on this Alpha Beats compilation album. And before we know it, like, hey, we're a label. We're putting stuff out. And that eventually led to a distribution deal with Groove Attack for Europe, Fat Beats for vinyl. And then there was another distributor, and I'm blanking on it. I'm embarrassed that I'm blanking on it. But we had another really cool distributor that we signed with for Canada and the United States. And it was just like, whoa, we're really doing this. So once we had distribution, it was a little bit easier for us to approach people, other artists to put out music with us.
I guess take us through where that goes, because you're releasing music with a number of artists and that grows to a point, and then at some point you decide that you're going to leave it all behind.
Yeah. So we're releasing music, like you said in the intro, my bio. We're doing MF Doom, Special Herbs, and Soul Uprising, Wale Oyejide, who did a song with Dilla. And I really think the gift and the curse is that like we started Shaman Work at the time right before digital distribution started to take off. And that's how we got our deal with IOTA, which was bought out by The Orchard, which is Sony now. But we had that in place, but we were still trying to be in the CD world when CDs were dying out. So while we had all this music, we didn't fully handle the pivot from physical to digital well. And this is also around the same time I'm starting to have a family. I'm a husband already, but I become a father in 2008. And I'm like, okay, I have a kid, but then I also have these 10 artists who are like my kids too. And it's a whole lot to handle. So it was around that time, 2009, 2010, that I decided to walk away from the label life. I'm not really doing much of my own music. I'm mostly executive producing releases for other artists. And, at that time we've released music, by CL Smooth and other legends too. So yeah, it was bittersweet, but I felt that the departure from the industry was necessary at that time for several reasons.
Right. And so tell us about what you did next in terms of your business.
So that's, I had learned so much about marketing by working records that I decided to start a marketing agency, Now Media. Now was spelled NAO. And it's actually the umbrella company for my record label for BeatCurve, still to this day. But NAO is the first three letters of our oldest daughter's name, Naomi.
Okay, cool.
I remember she was like 2 years old, and she was sitting on my lap. I'm like, baby, can I use part of your name to start a business? And she was like, yes. So, which was like a sign of inspiration coming through our children. That comes back around. I'm sure we'll get to that later in the interview. But I felt that starting the marketing agency would allow me to be at home more, because with Shaman work, I was either in LA or New York or in Atlanta all the time, right? And I just knew that, with a wife who works as well, I just need to be more settled, more stable as far as my location. And it was just a good time to make that pivot. But it was a pivot that I needed to make because I think I truly learned how to be a real businessman, entrepreneur during that season of life.
Yeah, that's beautiful, man. And I mean, I think it sounds like to make a pivot that big, it's interesting because, you get to a place where you're established, you have success and credibility, you're working with people that are recognized as legends in the area of music that we're talking about, and you're able to leave all that behind. And it seems to speak to a really strong sense of connection with your own personal philosophy and values. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because that is a hard thing to give up.
It is very hard because it's basically all I knew. Because like I shared, I was going to school for engineering and I never entered the engineering field. It was music, right? And some odd jobs, while building up the label until the label got on its own financial footing. It was the people. The people, that was the hardest thing to walk away from. No bridges were burned. So it's not like relationships ended. It's just that the working relationships, working with Aloe Black, working with Doom, working with John Robinson and my business partner at the time, Lamar. That's what I miss the most, and going out and eating dinner with those guys after a show and stuff like that. But I knew that there was a greater responsibility at home that took precedence over all that. And when you look at your wife and your kids' eyes, I think it makes it a little bit easier to walk away from those things. Always knew that I will return to music at some time, but I didn't know it would take 10 years.
Interesting. Wow. So Now Media as a marketing agency solely ran for 10 years.
Yep, that's right.
Wow. And so let's talk about, I'm curious. So what are some of those things that you've learned? This is interesting, right? Because you leave music, you start Now Media, you come back to music 10 years later. So what I'm curious about is what are some of those things maybe that you learned in marketing music that were directly applicable? And then full circle, what are those things that helped you come back that you're able to take from working purely as a marketer for corporate clients?
Oh, for sure. So Now Media mostly focused on content marketing and search engine optimization in the med tech scene, or industry rather. So this was right at the time, like Twitter was starting to get hot, right? So learning how to navigate social media for corporate brands and personal brands. Because funny enough, there's some crossover. We actually ran social and digital for Aloe Black when his career really started to take off with I Need a Dollar and during that time. So that is really what prepared me for today, is because I had to go in and immediately learn how to navigate social media platforms and digital marketing and SEO and learn the power of content for marketing, which made the world smaller. One could argue the internet made the world small, but content and social media made it even more possible to reach a great mass of people in a shorter period of time. So I would say that is the biggest benefit. I would say a second benefit is that I learned how to budget and manage funds a whole lot better during that season of running Now Media purely as a marketing agency. Learning how to manage ad budgets, learning how to not only market our customers, but our clients, but market ourselves as well as an agency. And also during that time, I did a lot of public speaking too at social media conferences and stuff like that. So it allowed me to really get into personal branding as well, and get comfortable being upfront, because during the Shaman Work label days, I was in the background. I didn't really, come out and promote myself. I was mostly focusing on promoting the artist. So yeah, let me see. I think there's one other thing I could show you. Also, during that time, I published my first book,
Oh, wow.
Open Routine, during the Now Media days, and it's about personal branding as well. So that time, while it was painful to walk away from music, I really grew so much in those areas, and I was able to be a fan from afar as I saw Aloe Black rise, as I saw MF Doom rise. Especially during that Mad Villain time, and it prepared me for today. Now that I'm back in music.
Man, that's beautiful, man. So, this really, I have to ask you, I think it's pretty common, right? If you're an artist, if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you have a dream of some kind and you're pursuing it, and it takes time to develop that. So in the meantime, maybe like you mentioned before, you're working odd jobs, or you're working some kind of a job that isn't necessarily directly connected to your dream. So what can you offer to people in terms of inspiration to kind of maintain that mindset? Because as you're demonstrating, there's so much that can be learned in seemingly unrelated places that can help you bolster what it is that you're working on towards your dream.
Yeah, I would say enjoy the process, right? If you focus too much on what your perceived end goal, you miss the joy, and you miss the opportunity to celebrate the small wins along the way. So that's the main thing I would tell people, especially, if you have to, drive Uber, if you have to wait tables, enjoy that opportunity when you get off work, where you could turn on your MPC and fire up Ableton or Logic, whatever, and just make a beat and celebrate that beat that you made. I would say that's the main thing, especially now where it's so important to be active on social media and wear many hats as an artist these days. Collaborate. Take some of the pressure to do it all off yourself, especially if you have another job to work, because it's just hard to do it all.
Yeah. So that's cool, man. I had no idea about this book on personal branding. And so I think it makes a ton of sense given the world that we're living in and all the social media stuff that you've had experience with. Let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the things that you see as really important practices and philosophies to embrace for people trying to develop and put on a brand.
Oh, for sure. I would say show who you are as a person. If someone goes to your Twitter or IG and all they see is new release out, stream today, there's no human connection being made there. If you were to go to my social media, you will learn, oh, Chris is a family guy. I'm posting pictures of my kids and my wife. Oh, Chris is really into the Houston Rockets and the NBA. Like, oh, he's not only into beats, like this dude is into sports too. I think the more that you let people know you, the person, the more of a personal, emotional connection they can make with your music as well. The other thing people know about me, like Chris is a man of faith. He's a Christian. I'm very open about that, and I'm very open about music being a spiritual process to me. I start every production session with a prayer, because there are certain, even though we're doing instrumental music, I believe that there are ways you can inspire and positively motivate people through a beat. I truly believe that. So I would say, as you go about building your personal brand, remember the humanity in it.
Are there any things that because some of what you're saying reminds me, I don't know, Just Jared, I don't know if you're hip to him. He was on episode 4 of ProducerHead, and he is somebody who really does understand social media pretty well. I think more so yes. person, and does a really good job. And he said something that stuck with me, which is, I echo some of what you said about like always sharing releases and getting people to listen to things. He says people forget that social media is a chance to remind people that you exist, and not to just try to constantly sell them things. And I think there's some echo in some of that. And so I'm wondering if there are anything, maybe some practices or tactical things that you suggest that people can try to implement as they're developing their brand and their presence.
Sure. So I would say I'll give an example for Instagram. So say if you're, conscious about having your feed be a certain, thing that's only about music. All
Mhm.
right, that's fine. Have your feed only be about music. Show your personality in your stories,
Mhm.
you know, show that, you're walking your dog,
Mhm.
or that you're doing something with your family, or that you're playing basketball, or share a funny joke in your IG story, just to let people know, like, hey, I'm just not a person out here shilling my next release. I'm really a person. So I would say that's one fun tactic that you could do. And then I would say the second thing is utilize IG Live to show you creating your art.
Mhm.
You could be making a beat live, or you could, stream your process, give people a behind the scenes on what goes into making your art, just so that they don't, view your art as a product,
Mhm.
right? They view it as a process.
Yeah, beautiful, man. Thank you. For everybody out there, hope you go ahead and take that. It's good stuff. So, all right, man, when we talked a little while back, you casually slipped in that you were friends with and managed MF Doom for a minute. And so obviously that kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I think many people here listening are big fans of MF Doom, are inspired by him. For those of you who don't, like, I couldn't recommend enough that you go check out This Man Left Behind, a very vast catalog of music that's worth becoming familiar with. So tell us how this comes to be and that you know and manage MF Doom.
I met MF Doom because of what we talked about earlier, alphabeats.com. He was living in Kennesaw, Georgia, which is a suburb of Atlanta. I was a college kid and reached out to, one, interview him, and two, have him be a judge for an online beat contest that we were putting on called Battle of the Beats. I wish I still owned that domain name, battleofthebeats.com. Why did I let that go? But that's how I met Doom.
Yeah.
And we just became friends. It wasn't even about the music. Eventually, yes, we did start to do music with each other, but it was just about going out, eating wings, and just having fun. Well, once he started to notice that I and my buddy Lamar, that we were, pretty savvy, and we were, willing to go out there and take chances with art,
Mhm.
he asked us for help with managing, helping him book shows, helping him broker deals with labels, and also helping him sell beats here and there, but also do collaborative projects. We were the people who helped broker his project with Danger Mouse. So that
Mhm.
was around that time. And that was a good 2 years with him. And we took him all the way up to the point to when he signed with Stone's Throw to do Mad Villain. And it was at that point to where he started to see that we were growing shaman work, and we were doing getting pretty busy with that. And we just, it was very amicable. We decided to mutual, like, he's like, okay, my trajectory is, growing this way. You guys are growing as label owners in this way. Let's, end the management thing, but we still remain friends. And I tell people all the time, I hung out with Doom, and I know him more for the person with his mask off than with his mask on.
Mhm.
I know the man,
Yeah.
his wife, his kids. So once again, bringing it back to the humanity, the relationship is what allowed our business relationship to be fruitful in the management sense, but also as an artist and label sense, because we put out 8 volumes, actually 9 volumes of his Special Herbs instrumental series through Shaman Work. So yeah, it's just a beautiful relationship, getting to know him and spending good quality time with him and his family.
That's Yeah, that's beautiful, man. So first of all, man, I listened to Special Herbs like so much when I was in college. Like that was like a soundtrack for me. So it's just
Oh, dude. Oh, man. You want to talk about, man, we could talk for days about that guy's mastery of embracing imperfections in his beats, and just the rawness in his beats and his sample choices, his ear for samples. Just crazy.
yeah, man, it's beautiful. So I think it is cool that you mentioned, man, because I think there are a lot of people out there looking for collaboration. Oh, wow. So for those of you not watching, my man's holding up the one of the special herbs volumes here. The fourth. Wow, it's beautiful. So collaboration is something that a lot of people aspire to do, you know, and
Yes.
and I think in it is an interesting mix, I think, of both business and personal relationships at times.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you suggest people who are maybe less experienced in that to kind of go about it? Because it is a delicate art. And like you said, it's I don't want to lead you on here too much. You know, how do you suggest that people kind of go about that and explore collaboration?
Let's start with my process. My process for getting collaborators was similar to my process for getting interviews when I started Alpha Beats.
Mm.
I started small, right? So I would interview like a local producer who has a relationship with a producer who may be a little bit more established than that person. But the fact that I interviewed the more local producer will allow me to bring up, hey, I had this interview with so and so. Would you be willing to talk to me? That's similar with collabs. You know, when I first got into producing lo-fi, one of my early collabs is my good friend Josh Smith Beats, one of the most talented lo-fi producers out there, and he's good friends with Banks, you know, who's a lo-fi girl artist. So that led to me collaborating with Banks.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it just grows like that. So I would say make music with your friends and then make music with their friends and then make music with their friends. And that's just a whole lot easier than going out and sending a cold DM to someone who you don't have a connection with at all. But then, you know, once you hit that rhythm of doing collaborating, you're undoubtedly gonna, you know, hit a situation where, you know, you've sent stems to someone and they're taking forever to get back with you. I'm probably working on 3 collabs right now that I'm taking forever to wrap up. So it's that gentle art of nudging. Hey man, just checking in. Yo, a really dope release that you just dropped this week. I'm just checking in. Hey, are you still interested in working on so and so with the stems I sent you? Oh yeah. I'm interested still. I'm sorry, it's been taking me a while. And then that slight nudge may turn into, you know, your next big lo-fi hit or your next big song. You know, so I just think it's communication. Is always the foundational thing for any relationship. It's just that it's easier to communicate these days because we have DMs, we have, you know, text messaging, you know, and all these things. And I would say just use all your communication channels as at your disposal to make it happen.
No, man, I like how actionable and practical it is, right? It's like, because I think embedded in what you're saying, it requires like some self-awareness and some honesty about where you are and who it makes sense for you to collaborate with right now.
For sure.
Approaching it in an organic way and allowing it to grow naturally over time makes a ton of sense. I think it's really wise and practical.
Yep.
Before we get off Doom completely, I do want to ask you, can you share maybe some of the gems or some of the wisdom that Doom left you with in the time that you spent with him?
Oh man. Before business, always break bread with a meal. That sounds silly. It's like, what is Chris talking about? But no, I think there's something about eating with someone and sharing a meal, you know, sharing a drink. Not like literally sharing a drink, but you know what I mean. That kind of breaks the ice, right? Because if you're only concerned about, hey, let's jump in and do a song. Hey, let's jump in and do business. That's not real, right? There are the soft skills in business and in relationships and in networking that you really need to hone before you even think about doing something as sacred as doing art with someone. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's the number one thing. I would say the number two thing is be unapologetically creative. I could say out of pretty much anybody I ever worked with, had the most creative freedom out of anybody. That's why he's your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. That's why Mos Def and Lupe Fiasco love that dude, because, you know, I think, Lupe said like he could wish, being signed to a major label, that he could have that kind of creative freedom, right?
Mhm.
And of course, it's easier to do that as an independent artist. But even when Doom did guest appearances, he was just himself. So I would say, take that and with your art, just be yourself, because you're the only one of you.
Mm.
And if you try to sound like someone else, not saying that it's wrong to be inspired by other people's art, but if you try to mimic other people's art, you lose your superpower. You lose your uniqueness in doing that. So I would say those are the top two things I learned from him.
Again, like as you mentioned, you met Doom and countless other people, through your contributions to Alpha Beats. And yes, it's something you created, but it represents an offering and a contribution to the community. And so
Yes.
it seems like you just have a little bit, maybe it's a little bit of a natural talent that you have, and maybe it's something you've also cultivated along the way. How can you help us better see opportunity through what we can offer other people and what we can give?
Oh man. Yes. 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 Okay. Another social media tip. Okay. It relates. Share on your platform other people's music.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy Riptide put out a really sick lo-fi Christmas track a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I shared it on my story and tagged him, not looking for him to be like, oh, you know, give me thanks and we do a song. But I just genuinely love the song and I shared it. So I think it's about being open about showing love to others. And that's the beauty of the lo-fi community. It's so collaborative, and there are active discords and people are, freely work with each other. It gives you an opportunity to give back to the community through art and through collaboration. So that's what I like about lo-fi. It's kind of baked into the scene, is showing love to each other. And I think that's why the genre is thriving.
Now, man, your current venture is BeatCurve, and so you're the head of a label now that you founded in the lo-fi scene. Like, tell us a little bit about how you just why you decided to start it and the vision that you have for it.
Well, it came out of the pandemic. So in 2020, 2021, our three kids, Naomi, Maria, and Elijah, they're older. They're playing piano. They're doing art. And they inspired me. I'm like, whoa, they don't know the side of dad that's an artist.
Mm.
So everyone was at home, right? So, and I'm seeing, whoa, I'm late to this lo-fi party. What's going on? Because lo-fi really started jumping in like 2017, I'm like, this is pretty cool. So it inspired me to start making beats again. Though I walked away from a label, I still had my distribution deal with the Orchard.
Mm.
So I still had a mechanism for releasing music. So I just, and I combined that with, at the time, DistroKid, just for, strategically, just for releasing certain types of music. So once I started to collect these beats, I'm like, hey, let me start throwing them out. So fast forward to July 2021, I released Before We Begin, my first lo-fi beat. People start to like it. Eldre added it to his playlist.
Wow.
I'm like, whoa, I think I could do this. And BeatCurve was a name that I came up with my daughter, Naomi. We're like, whoa, that sounds cool. And it became our family label to release our art. And now it's more than me. I'm releasing music, for other producers as well. And it's a beautiful thing. It allows me to give my contribution, like you alluded to, my contribution to the community. BeatCurve is my vehicle for contributing to the community.
Very cool, man. And so I know many producers are always wondering, how they can work with labels as a means to kind of expand what they can offer and as ways to get their music out and to kind of, just spread out their own workload a bit. So can you tell us what you look for in artists and how artists, I'm not going to ask you to speak for all labels out there, but for BeatCurve, certainly you can let us know what it is you look for in an artist.
I definitely look for. There's no like magic number for like monthly listeners and all that stuff. I don't. Some of the most talented producers I know don't have, big numbers on Spotify, but I look for consistency. I look for people who are consistently dropping, at least once a month, drop a beat. And, some people may say, oh, easier said than done. But I truly believe if you love beats, you probably have some stuff sitting on your hard drive that you could clean up and get it out there. Also look for people who support their own music, that don't just throw out releases without letting the world know that it's out there. Also look for people who are resourceful, people who come to the table. As a label, we do artwork for the releases, but people who have somewhat of a roadmap or bring ideas to the table for how they want the visuals to look and how they want the marketing to roll out for a release. So be like a little entrepreneur yourself in our partnership, and I find that attractive, and I find that a good quality for producers who are looking to release with BeatCurve. If you check all those boxes, hey, email us at beatcurverecords@gmail.com, and we could we could make something happen.
Yeah, watch out for that inbox now, man. No, man, I love that. And what I really hear, man, is it kind of comes full circle to the confidence thing, right? You're looking for people who make music, but also believe in themselves enough to actually want to put it out there and push it to show that they believe in the quality and the possibility of their own music. And I think again,
yes, that's exactly right. And I think the next step for BeatCurve is to build up a large enough of a roster to where we start to see some cross-pollinating, some more collaborations. When artists submit to BeatCurve and we hit a cadence, there's an opportunity to collaborate with me. I put a good number of my collaborations out through my own label. So that's what I really want. I really want BeatCurve to become this house of collaboration among talented music producers.
that's cool, man. I mean, it's really clear throughout this, like how much you value relationships and connections with people
Without a doubt.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Are there any other, I want to get into some of these like kind of quicker one hit questions for you. But before we do that, are there any projects or upcoming things that you want to share that you're excited about?
Oh, without a doubt. I recently signed a distribution deal with Tone Tree Music out of Nashville. Big shout out to Sean and Ellie. And I'm excited to roll out an EP that I'll be dropping in the first quarter with them. It's still untitled, but if you've heard Joyfield with Charlie Wynn, that's part of the rollout. And then I have a song called Searching that's also part of that rollout. And also Daydreams is part of that rollout too. And then also I have an EP with Wildflower and the Field Tapes that's coming out on Sonder House early next year in 2024. Really, really, really excited about those two projects. So be on the lookout for those collaborations and those releases.
Man, congratulations on all that, man. And shout to Kyle over at Sonder House as well.
Yeah, Kyle's the dude.
Absolutely. So, all right, Ben. And also let us know, where can people follow you on socials? Where do you like to be followed? How should people connect with you?
For sure. You can find me on X or Twitter and on Instagram at Beats by Craft. That's BeatsByCRFT. And you can find out more about BeatCurve, the label, at beatcurve.com.
Let's go. All right, man. Let's get into some of these quick hits. Feel free to
do it.
Or as lengthy as you like. What DAW do you use?
Ableton gang.
Oh, let's go. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Go-to sound or instrument?
Ooh, probably the native. Okay, I have two. Okay. The native instruments, pure piano.
Yeah.
Really, really good. It's actually a pure piano and a felt piano combined. And then also Native Instruments ROM for reverb. Love those.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not hip. I don't know that one.
Yeah, hold on. I want to make sure. Oh, yeah, that piano is actually it's a contact instrument.
Okay.
And it's called Noire, Noire. I love that piano.
Oh. Go-to plugin?
Oh, I think I stole my own thunder. It's ROM for sure. Oh, and then also God Particle. by Cradle.
Huh. What is that?
Love it.
Tell us about that one.
So I use that in my mastering chain. It's basically like a souped up limiter and an EQ that just brings like sparkle and loudness to your mixes.
Very cool. What's your favorite piece of gear?
Ooh, let me go grab it.
Let's go.
All right. So when I want to get out of DAW world and I want to bang on something, I pick up this little baby.
Oh, wow. Is that a 1000?
It's the 1000.
He's holding the MPC 1000, everybody.
Yeah. And it's a 1000 with outs.
Wow. How long? Yep.
I've had this baby for a long time, since like, I would say like 2007, maybe something like that.
All right. And 3 producers you think everybody could benefit from listening to, and you can't say, excuse me, Dilla, Madlib, and in your case, I'm also going to add Doom to that list.
Oh, wow. Okay. Pete Rock. DJ Premier. Shout out to Houston. People don't know he's from Houston.
Wow, for real? I didn't know that. Why did I?
Uh-huh. Yeah. The king of New York, the New York sound is from Texas. And then you said I can't say Madlib, right?
No.
Pete Rock, Premier, and Pharrell. I'm gonna say Pharrell.
That's a nice spread. I like that.
Yeah.
3 favorite albums.
Ooh, Nas Illmatic. Sheesh. Oh man. Radiohead Kid A.
Ooh, wow.
And ooh, dang, you put me on the spot. This is tough, dude.
They're not supposed to be easy.
Oh man, this is tough. Oh, all right. Oh my gosh. You're gonna have to edit out all the silence because this is so hard, bro.
I love how serious you're taking these questions, man. That's what's up. You want to give the real answer?
I want to give the real answer. Okay. Raekwon, Only Built for Cuban Links.
Wow. What's your favorite track on Illmatic? I just got out of curiosity.
Ooh, man, there's so many. That's tough, dude. Ooh, I don't know. Probably Halftime. I like Halftime.
Someone else you think I should talk to on this podcast, producer?
I think Genesis would be a dope interview because he's also a label owner and he has that really good balance between art and entrepreneurship as well.
Oh, thank you for that. I'll keep that in mind. Favorite movie?
Ooh, you're about to see how silly I am. This is so ridiculous. I am not a movie person, so this is going to sound so silly, but it's Coming to America. Eddie Murphy.
I don't know what made you hesitant about that one, man. I mean, it's a classic.
It's the classic, but people who are really into movies, would probably say like The Color Purple or some really like deep movie, and I'm here talking about a silly comedy.
Nah, man. I mean, comedy is important.
Yeah.
All right. If you were to do one thing to break the internet, what would it be?
If I were to do one thing to break the internet, what would it be? Ooh, how off the wall, like.
Hey man, I'm not here to guide. I just asked the question.
All right, Chris is crazy. All right, when Jesus comes back, I'm gonna be the first person to do IG Live with them. That'll break the internet.
IG Live with Jesus. No answer. That is an original answer. And I honestly, Craft, Chris, I can't thank you enough, man, for the time. This was so much fun. Thank you for sharing the wisdom that you have around making art, balancing with entrepreneurship, being yourself, valuing human relationships, the enthusiasm and kindness you bring to the scene. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be on your platform, be on your show. I hope our conversation blesses and inspires many people. And if I ever get opportunity to come back, I would love to do it.
That's what's up, man. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been Toru, and in a way, so are you. That concludes another episode of ProducerHead. We will catch you in the next one. Peace. That's it for this episode of ProducerHead. I appreciate you coming through and being a part of it. My hope is that it helps you unlock a bit more creativity and find progress in a way that matters to you. Before we go, there are 3 simple and zero-cost ways to support the ProducerHead Podcast. 1, tap in and subscribe or follow wherever you're listening, whether it be Spotify or Apple. 2, if you haven't already, drop a review on Apple or Spotify, maybe both if you're feeling it. The feedback is appreciated and helps me continue to do what's working while improving along the way. 3, send this episode to one person who would enjoy it. Do not underestimate the power of word of mouth. The most old school of methods are often the most effective. Finally, let's stay connected. I regularly share ideas that help me develop my creative process, along with music recommendations, and even give away free music and sample packs. Head to torubeat.com, torubeat.com, and sign up to receive all of these things and stay up on all things ProducerHead. You can also stay connected with me and the podcast at torubeat, TORUBEAT, on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. The theme music is one of my own songs. It is called Room to Breathe and available now on all streaming platforms. Again, for real, thank you so much for being here with me, and I look forward to catching you in the next episode of ProducerHead. This has been Toru, and in a way, so are you. Peace.